Hey, welcome. Today we're diving into one of the most high stakes and, honestly, fascinating journeys in all of science. The incredible path a new medicine takes to get from a bright idea in a lab all the way to your local pharmacy. It's a journey just packed with hurdles, and we're going to break down every single step.
It's a great question, right? You hear about some amazing scientific breakthrough, and then nothing for years and years. Is it all just a bunch of red tape? Well, the truth is, it's way more complicated than that. And it's all built around one single goal: keeping you and me safe.
The absolute best way to picture this whole process is as a gauntlet. It's this series of brutal, punishing trials that a potential drug has to survive to prove it's worthwhile. Each stage gets tougher, and the odds are just staggering. Fewer than 1 in 10,000 compounds that look good in a lab will ever make it all the way to the end.
So where does this gauntlet even start? You'd probably guess it's with the first human volunteer, but nope. The journey actually kicks off long before that, with a whole mountain of prep work and some really intense ethical review.
The very first hurdle is getting the thumbs up from an animal ethical committee. See, researchers have to submit this incredibly detailed plan, explaining exactly what they're going to do, why they have to do it, and what they think will happen. Only after they get that green light can they start what are called preclinical trials on animals, which are run under super strict guidelines.
After, and only after, those animal trials are done and look promising, the whole process starts over, but with even higher stakes. A brand new, exhaustive plan for human testing gets submitted to a human ethical committee. Their entire job is to poke holes in it from every possible angle, all to make sure future volunteers will be safe. Okay, and now, finally, we get to the human phases of the gauntlet. But the goal at first isn't what you might think. Before we can even begin to ask, hey, does this cure the disease? We have to answer a much more basic question. Is this drug even safe for people to take?
Sometimes this starts with this optional, super cautious step called phase 0. Think of it like just dipping a toe in the water. A tiny, and I mean tiny, non-working dose is given to just a handful of healthy people. The goal is just to see how their bodies absorb and process it. If any red flags pop up right away, boom, the drug is done.
If that goes well, we get to the first required human trial, phase 1. In this phase, the dose is slowly cranked up in a small group of about 20 to 100 healthy volunteers. And the goal here is simple, but it is absolutely critical. Find the highest dose a person can handle before it gets toxic and write down every single side effect, no matter how small. But there's a really important exception to that healthy volunteer rule. For drugs that we already know are toxic, think chemotherapy for cancer, it would be completely unethical to give them to healthy people. So in those specific cases, phase 1 trials are actually done with patients who have the disease, which combines that safety study with the very first peek at whether it might actually work. Okay, so let's say a drug has cleared those first safety hurdles. It's not showing any major toxic problems. Now it enters the second and by far the hardest round of the gauntlet. The big question flips from is it safe to the multi-billion-dollar question. Does this thing actually work? And right away, the scale just explodes. For the very first time, the trial expands from that small group of healthy volunteers to a much larger group of 100 to 500 actual patients, people who have the exact condition the drug is supposed to treat. And if a drug can somehow show a little bit of promise here, it gets thrown into the big leagues, phase 3. Now we are talking about hundreds, sometimes even thousands of patients, often in trials happening all over the world. The stakes and the costs are just astronomical at this point. So here's the key takeaway, the point you really have to get. Phase 2 is the great filter. It is the graveyard where most promising new drugs go to die. Something can look amazing in a petri dish, seem totally safe in phase 1, and then it just turns out to be completely useless in real patients. This is the most brutal part of the entire journey. And that really shows you the different jobs these two phases have. You can think of phase 2 as being exploratory. It's just asking, is there anything here? Does this drug work at all? But phase 3 is confirmatory. It has to prove without a doubt that the drug works and is safe in a huge, diverse group of people that looks just like the real world. Now let's just lay this out on a timeline. When you add it all up, just the human trial part can easily stretch for 6 to 10 years. You've got a year or 2 for phase 1, another 2 to 3 for phase 2, and then the giant phase 3 trials can go on for 3 to 5 years. This is the reason why new medicines take so long to get to us. So, after maybe a decade of trials, a drug has finally made it through the gauntlet. It's proven safe, it's proven effective. The journey's over, right? Well, not quite. Even after a drug gets approved and is sitting on a pharmacy shelf, the observation never really ends. So the first step is to take every single bit of data, from the very first lab tests all the way through all 3 clinical phases, and package it into this absolutely gigantic document called a New Drug Application, or NDA. That gets sent to the national regulatory bodies, who go through it with a fine-tooth comb before giving the final okay for the drug to be sold. And even after all that, the work keeps going in what's called Phase 4. This is basically long-term surveillance. The drug's performance is monitored in tens of thousands of patients out in the real world. The whole idea is to catch any super rare or long-term side effects that you just never see in a trial of only a few thousand people. Sometimes findings are even checked in huge population studies, which you can think of as a Phase 5. So let's just recap that whole journey. We've seen that the drug approval process is this long, difficult gauntlet that is designed with one thing in mind above all else: safety. It starts off tiny and scales up massively, and its toughest test, Phase 2, is where most drugs fail. And even when a drug finally makes it, the watchful eye of science never really looks away. And that really leaves us with a big, important question to think about. This whole system is built to protect us, which is great, but it's also incredibly slow and expensive, and that can delay access to treatments that could save lives. It really makes you ask, when we're searching for new medicines, what's the perfect balance between moving fast and being absolutely sure?